In April, the old trees in the estate began to sprout, rows of them swaying in the spring breeze, green hues blanketing everything. This year, spring arrived early, and the flowers in the back garden were about to bloom. A few gardeners were busy tending to the lawn. Theodore Harlan sat on the balcony, looking down, lifting his teacup for a sip, before immediately frowning. He set the cup down and turned to the unfamiliar maid standing beside him. "Who brewed the tea?" The maid bowed her head and mentioned a name Theodore had never heard before. Under the sunlight, the man's handsome profile was bathed in a soft golden light, his deep eyes scanning the distance before quietly withdrawing. His tea had always been prepared by the butler who had been by his side for years. Old Mr. Foster. Now the tea tasted different, meaning Mr. Foster was no longer there. Theodore's expression remained unchanged, but inwardly he chuckled softly. He knew Julian Creek was trying to erase every close associate around him, bit by bit. Today marked the 5th day since Julian had seized control of the Harlan family and confined him to the estate. It was also Theodore's 39th year in this world. In his previous life, Theodore had died young from a severe illness. After being reborn in this unfamiliar world, he was bound by a strange system that assigned him a task right as he opened his eyes. Julian Creek was the protagonist shoe of this world. From a young age, he lived in his father's villa, cared for by servants. He had never met his mother. It wasn't until he was 15, when his father was murdered, that he was brought back to his mother's family, the Harlan estate. There, he was raised by his mother's younger brother, his uncle. But his uncle was a dark, twisted, mad, and perverse man. Julian's teenage years were a chain of abuse and humiliation. He endured helplessly, unable to escape. The only light in his dark life was Simon Drake, the only son of the Drake family, but he was still too naive. Before his wings could fully harden, his revenge plan was discovered. In the end, he was brutally killed by his own uncle. The plot never mentioned that after death, Julian would be reborn. This time, he endured patiently, plotting long-term, allying with Simon to reclaim the Harlan family, and killing his uncle in the same torturous way he had suffered. Theodore quietly stroked the teacup that had cooled in the spring breeze, leaving it in place. He was that perverse uncle. And now, Julian was in charge. Theodore's main task was to play the role of the villain perfectly. Once all tasks were completed, he could continue living in this world as Theodore Harlan. Whether Julian was reborn or not, and to what extent, no longer concerned him. Over the years, he had followed the task list sequentially, completing every requirement. The scars covering Julian's back were all from whips wielded by Theodore's own hand. The dangerous, dirty dealings in the Harlan family's shadows were all assigned to Julian. For years, Mr. Foster was the nominal butler, but the one truly handling Theodore's daily life, from meals to clothing, housing, and travel, had always been Julian. He was Julian's uncle, and Julian was his forbidden love. Theodore had done well. Seeing the growing resentment in Julian's eyes, he knew the final task moment had arrived. On the task interface, only 2 gray boxes remained. 1, hand Julian over to Victor Desmond, the 3rd son of the Desmond family. 2, kill Julian. Theodore hadn't completed the first one. When Julian was 26, he was supposed to offer him as a gift to Victor Desmond to strengthen ties between the families, but Theodore didn't do it. He never handed Julian to anyone, no matter how tempting Victor's offers. The unfinished task soon showed consequences. Julian seized the Harlan family, leaving Theodore isolated. The task interface displayed a final reminder before fading. The first item, overdue, vanished, meaning it was too late. Now only the last task flickered red, signaling little time left. Theodore still delayed, and the repercussions emerged. Waking that morning, he suddenly felt a heavy chest, alerting him to his body's weakening. Memories of bedridden months in his previous life made Theodore obsessively attentive to his health, almost to extremes. Any small change triggered immediate vigilance. He knew this was a warning, the system's ultimatum. Between him and Julian, only one could survive. Lost in thought, a soft voice reached his ear. He looked up to see a young man approaching. The young man had an extraordinarily handsome face, with a high nose bridge and perfect features that carried a sharp edge. His fox-like eyes always held a seductive charm when gazing at others, yet they were shrouded in a layer of gloom and coldness, making people hesitate to approach. Julian had just handled some matters at the Harlan Corporation. Theodore had been involved in too much. Reclaiming the company took Julian considerable time to stabilize. Having just returned, he hadn't changed out of his black suit. He walked up to Theodore, habitually crouching down in front of him. Theodore asked, "Where's Mr. Foster?" Julian replied, "Uncle Foster is getting old. I let him retire at home." Hearing this, Theodore chuckled softly, his tone laced with sarcasm. He stayed silent for a long while before speaking again. "It's time for this year's health checkup. Arrange a car for me tomorrow." Julian's narrow eyes squinted slightly. This time, he slowly stood up. And without waiting for Theodore's permission, he took the teacup from his hand and sipped the now cold tea. "You go for checkups every year, and the results are always the same. Your body is healthier than a young person's. I think we can skip it this year." Theodore snatched the cup back and flung it to the floor. The precious porcelain shattered with a piercing sound, prompting servants to rush in. Julian waved them away, his face calm without a trace of anger, only coolly saying, "Temper yourself a bit. It'll make life easier later." He turned to leave. Behind him, Theodore's cold laugh echoed. "What? Figured out how to torture me yet?" Julian glanced back, his expression indifferent. "You'll find out soon enough." What feelings did Julian have for Theodore? Theodore thought it must be hatred. After all, he was the one who killed Julian's biological father and confined him to this estate, subjecting him to over a decade of humiliation. Now, with everything reclaimed, Theodore, the culprit of that tragedy, was unlikely to be forgiven easily. In Theodore's study, there was a sharp dagger. If he just took it and plunged it into Julian's chest, everything might still be salvageable. Theodore had taken the dagger from the study several times to clean it, but always put it back. The cold blade never touched the outside air, never gleaming from start to finish. Soon after, Theodore learned what Julian planned for him. Overnight, half the servants in the villa were dismissed. The dirty laundry basket he left the day before remained untouched. It was the same maid who came to clean, head bowed so low her face was barely visible. She said the laundry staff had all been fired. Theodore's face showed no emotion, no anger. He quietly went downstairs for breakfast. But lifting the bowl of porridge, he realized it was cold, even starting to congeal. The maid whispered, "Mr. Creek instructed that if breakfast is made once, no need to reheat." Theodore stirred the congealed porridge with his spoon, seeming to understand what Julian was doing. With roles reversed, Julian wanted him to taste abandonment and isolation. His chest suddenly tightened, breathing becoming difficult. Theodore casually pointed to a nearby window, signaling to open it for air. But silence enveloped him. The few servants stood motionless, completely ignoring his order. The stifling atmosphere choked all sound. Theodore's angular face gradually showed irritation. He glanced at the maid beside him, coldly asking, "How old are you?" The maid paused, blinked, hesitated a few seconds, then answered, 27, sir." She was 2 years younger than Julian. Theodore pondered, then asked, "Where do you live?" The maid's voice softened, timidly reciting her address. Theodore thought for a moment, removed his watch from his wrist, and tossed it into her arms. She fumbled to catch it, hearing the man in front coldly command, "Make me another breakfast, and change your address." The maid panicked, kneeling down, clutching the expensive watch, her face flustered nearly to tears. Trembling, she said, "Mr. Harlan, please don't make it hard for me. If Mr. Creek finds out, he'll be furious." Theodore sighed, rubbing his throbbing temples, finally losing patience. He slammed the watch on the dining table. The maid trembled as he lowered his cold voice. "Tell Julian Creek to get his ass over here!" It took 2 hours for Julian to leisurely appear at the estate. Theodore still sat at the dining table, the half-eaten messy breakfast untouched. It seemed the maid had remade a portion for him. Julian knew well that Theodore was almost obsessively strict about his health. He wouldn't eat cold food. The maid still bowed her head, trembling. Julian glanced over and calmly said, "You don't need to come starting tomorrow." The maid burst into sobs, not daring to argue, only nodding frantically. Theodore laughed coldly in anger. "Julian Creek, I didn't expect you'd humiliate me this way." Facing Theodore's fury, Julian remained composed. He crouched beside him, looking up at that cold, handsome face, gently saying, "Uncle, for all these years, you've been cared for by Uncle Foster. Now that he's gone, it's just me left." Whatever you need, I'll take care of it as before, bit by bit. Theodore laughed in rage, gripping Julian's chin, forcing him to meet his eyes. His voice was low, laced with unresolved anger. Is that all you want? Julian looked at him calmly. That's all I want. In truth, it wasn't just that. On the surface, calm, but inside Julian was a tangled mess. He kept Theodore in the estate, but he himself hadn't figured out what he truly wanted. The only thing he was sure of was that he wanted to force Theodore to submit. He wanted him to stay quietly by his side, like over a decade ago, so he could control everything. But how could someone used to being on top easily bow down? Theodore squeezed Julian's chin until red marks appeared on his cheek. I thought you'd come up with something better. He trailed his long fingers down Julian's back through the thin fabric, tracing the rough scars from years ago. Why not whip me until my skin splits? The whip is still in its old place. Go get it. That gentle touch made Julian's body tingle, reviving memories of past whippings. Julian slightly shrank back, whispering, What are you talking about? Julian kept his word. Half the remaining servants in the estate were dismissed, leaving only a few to serve him personally. Having lived together for years, Julian knew Theodore's habits well. His sleep schedule was precisely controlled, exercise routines consistent, rain or shine, and dietary demands obsessively strict. Theodore cared about his health far more than average. Over years running the Harlan family through countless internal struggles, he never sustained a single injury. He was like a cold snake hidden in a dark cave, his icy eyes silently observing the storms outside. Julian knew what he valued, so it started with a substandard steak on the dining table. Then 3 consecutive meals went unserved. The surrounding servants, following Julian's orders, began shrinking into invisibility. Except for mandatory responses, they never proactively attended to Theodore. Theodore understood what Julian was waiting for. He wanted to see a powerful man fall from the clouds in his most wretched state. The dressing room soon became chaotic, dirty clothes piling up messily. Servants deliberately avoided cleaning the master bedroom, letting a thin layer of dust accumulate. The precious flowers on the balcony, no longer tended by Mr. Foster, began to wilt and decay. Julian was very satisfied with the current results. Only when he saw Theodore appear in the kitchen did he show a hint of surprise. He didn't expect Theodore to know how to cook, and naturally, he couldn't wait for the moment the other begged. The man wore a black sweater and home pants, his hair usually slicked back now falling softly, his tall frame standing straight, long legs proportionate. He was adding a handful of greens to the pot, movements without clumsiness. Steam obscured his face. Julian had never seen Theodore like this. He stood frozen for a long time before finding his voice. Looks like you can take care of yourself after all. Theodore chuckled coldly. He had lived alone for over 20 years before, even crawling out of bed near death to cook. What hadn't he experienced? Not letting Julian's scheme succeed put Theodore in a good mood, even rare leniency toward him. Kid, there's a lot you don't know. Stir-fried greens with scrambled eggs weren't nutritious, but Theodore didn't know many dishes. Cooking again after decades, the novelty outweighed nutritional needs. Julian eyed the 2 dishes made by Theodore's hands, his gaze never leaving him. I wonder if I'll have the honor to taste your cooking often? You fired my chef and still want my food? Dream on. Theodore continued cooking while shooing him away. I can't accommodate you. Get out. As he spoke, oil splattered from the pan onto his fair hand back. A burning sting hit immediately. Theodore looked down, stunned for a moment. His mood plummeted like a roller coaster, face quickly turning cold. He heavily tossed the spatula into the pan. Julian sighed inwardly, finally stepping forward to hold Theodore's hand under cold water, then seating him and applying ointment to the burn. Seeing Theodore still frowning, he said, Don't sulk like a child. Theodore abruptly pulled his hand back, raising it to shoo him away. Julian cursed himself inwardly for being foolish, getting soft after a bit of gentleness and expecting more. Not only getting nothing, but scolded instead. This wouldn't happen again, he thought, as Theodore spoke. When will you arrange the car for me? He meant the health checkup. Julian's face cooled, replying, Uncle, I won't let you leave this villa, same as before. Don't be so arrogant. Until Julian left, Theodore sat motionless. He closed his eyes, only revealing fatigue and heavy breathing when sure no one was around. His face paled. His chest tightened fiercely. The discomfort these days grew clearer. Today it even throbbed, heart racing, making breathing hard. The strangely familiar rapid heartbeat and dull ache pulled him back to distant memories from his previous life. Theodore knew if he didn't complete the task this time, he'd suffer like before, tormented by illness to death. His hand on the table trembled slightly. After a while, when the chest tightness eased, he stood, taking the meal he'd prepared. Julian still returned to the villa. He deliberately sought advice from Theodore in front of him. Theodore ignored him lazily. But Julian wasn't angry, just slowly lit a cigarette, letting smoke curl in Theodore's bedroom. Theodore didn't smoke and was allergic to the smell. He frowned, telling Julian to leave, but the other stayed put. The young man's handsome face blurred in the smoke, his beautiful eyes flickering with provocative emotion, as if deliberately opposing him, like rebellion. He started smoking at 18, sneaking where Theodore couldn't see. The first drag burned his lungs, coughing nonstop, but it brought a strange thrill. Even after multiple washes, he felt restless. Standing before Theodore, his piercing gaze made Julian anxious about being discovered. Now, Theodore stood by the window, cracking it open for wind. The pungent smoke worsened his chest irritation. Out of Julian's view, Theodore frowned slightly, breathing heavily. He coughed softly, unheard, then turned, asking, "How long do you plan to keep me locked up?" Julian replied, indifferently, "I haven't decided yet." Theodore laughed coldly. "Planning to lock me up until I die? That would take a long time." Julian hadn't thought about time. He just wanted something from Theodore. But what, he couldn't figure out, only knowing to demand it. He finished the cigarette, mouth faintly smoky. Theodore walked to the bed edge, intending to pull Julian to the window, but Julian stepped forward quickly, forcefully pinning him, trapping the man between the sofa, one hand on his nape, fiercely kissing his lips. Unlike the man's cold, rigid personality, his lips were soft like cotton candy Julian had eaten once. Theodore rarely kissed him except when pleased. Julian would sneak like a kitten to amuse him. Then the thin ice over those dark brown pupils melted slightly. Those kisses weren't gentle, but for Julian they were rare moments of softness from the man. Most times he faced his indifference. For the first time, Julian took full initiative in a kiss, or rather a battle. The clash of lips and tongues made his heart pound. He felt Theodore's anger as his lip was bitten. The metallic taste of blood spread in both mouths. The struggle ended quickly as he was pushed away. Julian didn't mind, casually wiping blood from his lip corner, eyes following Theodore angrily heading to the cabinet, pulling out a black whip gleaming coldly. Julian laughed, slowly standing. "Want to whip me, Uncle? It's been a while since you last did. When was it? About 2 years ago, I think. How do you want to do it? Want me on my knees?" As he spoke, he obediently knelt by the sofa edge. The earlier kiss seemed a fleeting illusion. Now Julian reverted to his former submissive self. He unbuttoned his white shirt, exposing a back crisscrossed with scars, overlapping like writhing worms, ugly and terrifying, all inflicted by Theodore's hand. There are already so many, a few more won't matter. Theodore breathed heavily, lips reddened from the kiss, his eyes filled with rage, hand gripping the whip trembling. After a moment, he tossed the whip aside, sat on the sofa, and grabbed Julian's chin. "You've taken the Harlan family from me. What more do you want?" Julian replied calmly. "The Harlan family was always mine." After all, Theodore was only adopted into the Harlan family. If Julian's mother, the eldest Harlan daughter, hadn't died in an accident, the family would never have fallen to Theodore. So what more did Julian want? Facing Theodore's question, Julian questioned himself. He should seek revenge for himself, or perhaps for his father, stabbed by his uncle. How to avenge, then? Kill him, or treat him as he was treated? Whipping him. Julian didn't truly want that, but he needed some way to find balance. So, kneeling before Theodore, looking up at the man above, he softly said, "From tomorrow on, no matter what, you won't get any response." The black whip was tossed into the room corner. Before leaving, Julian hesitated, finally bending to pick it up, placing it back. The leather whip that brought him endless pain was now dusty, aged. Indeed, Theodore hadn't whipped him in a long time. If not provoked, Theodore probably wouldn't think to use it again. Previously, the task abused Julian troubled Theodore for a long time. When he whipped the teenager's back, the gray taskbar flickered red, system acknowledging progress. From then, Theodore used this method to complete it. The system suggested other forms for faster progress, but he didn't care. 2 years ago, when the task filled red, the whip was discarded. He never felt joy in the prolonged control and torture. Nor did Julian. Theodore was now completely confined to the estate in isolation. Servants began treating him like heir, leaving everything for him to handle. Inwardly, he cursed Julian's childish revenge, but seeing his high-end suits tossed into the washer, wrinkled, he realized some things he couldn't tolerate. Servants bowed low, pretending not to see the man clumsily cleaning the bedroom and accidentally breaking an antique vase. Julian was very pleased with this. Lately, he didn't stay overnight at the estate, but visited daily to enjoy Theodore's growing disarray. Theodore didn't want to engage with these childish retaliations. Lately, he often felt exhausted, even waking with breathlessness, legs heavy like rusted machinery failing. It made his movements slow and difficult. Today, after an uneasy nap, Theodore woke with lingering breathlessness into evening. The heaviness spread, forcing him to lean on the bed edge, panting heavily. Silence oppressed from all sides, only spring wind rustling willows against the window. Theodore's face paled. He coughed lightly, then called for a glass of warm water, but the phone rang and auto-disconnected, unanswered. His face showed helplessness. The air made breathing hard. Lately, he often opened windows for ventilation. Abandoning the call, Theodore turned to the half-open glass door. Spring's damp scent blew in with sweet notes, evoking old memories. The day he killed Julian's father, it drizzled. Everything was wet, muddy sweetness mixed with the drive. Stepping out, amid surrounding whispers, the small villa's bedroom door opened. 15-year-old Julian sat by the window, rain misting his face from the wind. He wore the smallest blue shirt, like long hair over shoulders. Hearing noise, he slightly turned, his beautiful, exquisite face expressionless. Theodore sat opposite. Mr. Foster quickly closed the large window, thin glass blocking cold rain. Julian stayed on the floor, letting Mr. Foster arrange, only looking up at Theodore. Theodore said, "Your father is dead." Julian replied, Theodore continued, "Come with me." Mr. Foster found suitable clothes for the teen, but the wardrobe seemed outdated. Reluctantly, he draped his own coat over Julian. Theodore stood first. The quiet teen followed, near the bedroom door, thinking he'd obey, but no. Julian suddenly stopped, ignoring Mr. Foster's gentle urging. Theodore waited. Seeing Mr. Foster's flustered worry, he thought, then signaled a gardener to pick a flower. The white flower freshly plucked, still dewy. Bud closed, awaiting bloom. Theodore pinned it to Julian's chest pocket, softly saying, "Let's go see outside a bit." Julian's blank expression flickered. He touched the flower, then looked at the tall, solid back ahead, slowly following. A cold gust snapped Theodore back. Early spring night wind chilled, seeping into skin, making him cover his mouth, coughing lightly. His heavy body forced slow steps to close the window, but propping up, intense pain from left chest spread, shaking him. Theodore groaned in pain, face instantly ashen. Cold sweat soaked him, tall, sturdy body curling like a child. Agony made him clutch his chest, buttons popping off, scattering. He buried his face in blankets, trying to regulate breathing. Each inhale torture. Minutes stretched eternally, each second torment. When pain finally subsided, temples dripped cold sweat. Theodore opened eyes, pupils hazy, unfocused. After a while, he struggled up. Simple movement, but internal decay made it arduous. Theodore slowly raised hand to call for window closing, but before pressing, the ring faded in daze. Fingers trembled, dropping, consciousness sank into darkness. Waking again, he faced Julian's cold, gloomy face. "I didn't expect you'd go this far. Resisting me by threatening with your own body?" Servants reported. Theodore didn't leave his room as usual. No exercise, no breakfast. Door still closed. Julian sensed something wrong, ordered knocking, but no answer. Pushing in, he saw the large window open in early spring chill, the man feverish, motionless on bed. In panic and anger, his first thought was, Theodore did it deliberately to resist. Julian, worried and furious, vented on servants. "He left the window open all night. Didn't you see?" No one dared reply. After venting, Julian personally returned to the bedroom, caring for the one he thought was causing trouble. Theodore's cheeks flushed abnormally from high fever, brows furrowed, clearly uncomfortable. He woke once that morning. Julian hadn't spoken when he drifted off again. Fever not only persisted but rose. Initial anger gave way to worry. Julian propped him up, forcing sips of ginseng soup, hoping to restore color to pale lips. Under long lashes, Theodore showed no sign of waking. The IV hand was ice cold. Julian warmed it, murmuring, "Just one night with the window open, it shouldn't be this bad." Fever unrelenting, unease rose silently. At night he dared not leave, slipping beside him while dazed. Faint ebony scent lingered. He quietly nestled into Theodore's chest, borrowing the burning warmth. 2 days of constant care familiarized Julian with the man's scent and breath. Feeling weak but steady breathing, he relaxed, closing eyes, allowing himself closer. From birth, Julian lived in a remote villa surrounded by mountains, never allowed outside. Only 3 servants there. Over time, they rotated, except a nanny who cared for him early years. Julian remembered clinging, crying, begging her not to leave, but no one stayed. Later arrivals spoke less, almost ignoring him, no interaction or care. His father was cold and strict, visiting few times over a decade, countable on fingers. Handsome face, but seeing Julian, it twisted unpleasantly. "You look just like your mother, nothing like me. But that's good. The more you resemble her, the more Theodore Harlan will hesitate to act." Julian knew from birth he was a pawn, hostage, trump card for contingencies. He wondered when he'd be used. Until that year, a tall, handsome young man pushed open the bedroom door. Julian tilted his head. The man carried rain mist, entering like a fresh breeze, upending his gloomy life. Julian's mother died in Harlan family infighting. He never met her. Even his father never mentioned. When she died from blood loss and surgery amid chaos, he was secretly taken, hidden where no one could find. But all that, Julian pieced together years later. Theodore never uttered a word, never explained, just calmly said he killed his father without reason. Back then, Julian didn't press. Newly brought to Harlan family, sudden change from over a decade's life left him unadapted. He often fevered, sometimes comatose. Theodore's face remained indifferent, expression unchanged. He only sent doctors. As if troublesome, he never appeared daytime before him. But why? Daytime. Because in hazy night memories, feverish Julian, before doctors left turning off lights, darkness swallowed him. Forgotten nightmares flooded. Julian sobbed, begging. Thinking no response, but seconds later, bedside lamp gently lit. In blurred vision, Julian saw a sturdy, broad silhouette. Delirious, he mumbled, "Uncle," like grasping a lifeline, clutching the sleeve unyielding. Fever robbed clarity to distinguish real from dream, only whispering pleas not to leave. He didn't want to be alone. Unknown time passed, quiet space seemed to sigh softly, then faint ebony scent spread toward him. Julian sank into rare peaceful sleep. Waking from memory, Julian habitually touched Theodore's forehead. Temperature dropped slightly. He sighed relief, then froze. Theodore's resolute, sharp face quiet under soft, yellow light. Clearly, he'd turned off lights before sleep to avoid glaring Theodore, yet somehow the nightlight was on again. Julian's silent, long, then unable to hold, buried face in Theodore's neck. Body trembled, pained sobs choked question from chest. "Why can't you be nicer to me, or even meaner?" Love but dare not, hate incomplete. Julian stood amid fog and thorns, hesitating to advance, refusing to retreat. On the 3rd day, Theodore's fever truly broke. In mere days, Julian felt the man thinner. He acted tough, silent, but kitchen bustled again. Rich, nutritious chicken soup aroma spread, but Theodore didn't eat, just stirred lightly, untouched. Julian brought a bowl, spooning to his mouth. He turned away. Julian saw Theodore's weary face. He lounged against headboard, eyes avoiding him. Facing Theodore's cold stubbornness, Julian recalled the illness cause. Atmosphere, briefly eased, tensed again. But discovering misbuttoned pajamas on floor and 2 internal calls the illness day, Julian sensed wrongness. Grasping details, looking at Theodore, he asked, "The window. Did you open it on purpose?" Theodore turned, lip twitching, faintly curling. "Yes. If no one notices me, I can do whatever." Such blatant frankness left Julian helpless and angry. He didn't want to argue with the man. Theodore had been seriously ill. Julian had to admit he could never be as ruthless. Facing such weakened Theodore, he couldn't bear it. He said nothing, silence signaling compromise and concession. To avoid conflict, after confirming no fever, he left the villa again. Over half the servants returned. The maid fired for making Theodore breakfast also came back. She stood before him, small face flushed, softly. "I'm from the Harlan household, here to care for you." The maid seemed eager to do well, but her tea lacked Mr. Foster's flavor. Theodore sipped, frowned, but said nothing, finishing it. For several days, Julian didn't appear at the estate. Victor Desmond lurked like a tiger, eyeing power. Best consolidation was marriage alliance. Julian marrying Simon would easily suppress Victor. Plus, per plot, they should be developing feelings now. Theodore unclear his own mood. He thought he'd calmly accept their romance, but seeing Julian bring the man into the villa, he couldn't hide his cold face. Simon, drunk, was helped from hall. Julian directed to guest room. Mid-sentence, he felt a chilling gaze. Looking up, Theodore stood at stair turn, staring silently. Simon, head down, shivered, mumbling incoherently, "Your place feels a bit cold." Theodore's dark eyes grew gloomier. After seeing off the guest, Julian chased Theodore back to bedroom. "Did you take medicine on time tonight?" Theodore spun, face taut, voice icy. "Julian Creek, let me tell you, whatever you and he are now has nothing to do with me. But this is my estate. Don't let him appear before me. It's an eyesore." Julian's eyes flicked to the half-open window. He closed it. Cold winds sobered him slightly. Only then did he vaguely realize Theodore was unhappy. He asked, "Are you unhappy?" Theodore ignored, continuing, "Have him leave now or I'll throw him out." "Why are you unhappy?" Julian stepped closer, truncated 1301 characters. Along with the system's cold voice, Theodore slowly woke in the hospital room. He slightly turned his head. Julian immediately rushed over. The young man, disheveled, eyes bloodshot. Those once cold black eyes now filled with sorrow and despair. He looked more haggard than hospital Theodore. Theodore reached to pat his face like soothing a child. Low, gentle voice. "Go wash up, tidy yourself. No matter what, don't look so lost." Time passed since the blood-coughing faint. In that period, Theodore quietly watched Julian shift from shocked disbelief to now silently leaning close, as if still unbelieving. Multiple times, he heard Julian's suppressed voice asking doctors in hallway, "How can multiple organs fail suddenly? Are you sure no misdiagnosis or equipment error?" Doctors could only helplessly reply, "Mr. Creek, the condition didn't appear abruptly. Mr. Harlan may have felt unwell long ago, just ignored or downplayed it." How could he downplay it? He always prioritized health. If unwell, why not say? Rebuttal choked unspoken. Julian suddenly recalled twice refusing health check suggestions, recalled that high fever and overnight open window. He seemed to understand something. Emotions suppressed like walking a tightrope, ready to collapse anytime. From that day, Theodore's condition plummeted. Doctors said organ failure progressed too fast. They could only try to sustain. Julian didn't speak much. He quietly noted every instruction, meticulously caring. Mr. Foster returned to Theodore, his face more wrinkled. Meeting him, still neatly dressed as before, but seeing the gaunt, pale figure on bed, he bowed, kneeling, tears-soaking patient gown. "Master," Theodore smiled faintly, helplessly teasing. "Don't mourn me yet, Mr. Foster." Julian kept expressionless throughout. From Theodore collapsing that night, his emotions froze. From learning illness to arranging treatment, Julian like a dead stone, no anger, no tears, no chaos. These days, Theodore coughed blood more frequently. He hid pain, but hand-clutching abdomen betrayed, each cough like internal torment. Mr. Foster, eyes red, hugged his abdomen to ease some pain. Julian knelt, wiping coughed blood with white cloth. Blood drops soaked cloth, then floor. One drop, another into Julian's heart like tearing, each rip suffocating. Cold winds seeped into heart's void, howling mercilessly. Those days, they stayed by bedside, but Harlan affairs needed handling. Theodore forced him from room, making him manage corporation issues. That day, Julian angrily said he'd marry Simon, but it was heat of moment. He never intended. Now, with Theodore ill, Julian chose extreme method to deal with Victor Desmond decisively. At private villa, bloodied Victor dragged out, kneeling. The fat man looked up at the seated youth, eyes fearless, instead filled with mad obsession and evil. In villa, two emaciated boys found, barely teens, but dazed, vacant eyes, odd behavior, bodies covered in wounds, old and new, scattered horrifically. Victor grinned, blood not dry on lips. "Heard you crippled Theodore?" He sneered, eyes sinister. "He deserves it. If he'd handed you over back then, he wouldn't end like this." He stared at Julian with terrifying obsession, licking lip blood, tongue circling, continuing, "You still taste good. How did Theodore raise you? Why can't I raise one like that?" He stared into Julian's deep black eyes, as if always wondering. After a moment, realization dawned, hoarse laugh echoing empty hall. "Theodore, that fool! Ha ha! He deserves it! Deserves Julian, expressionless, grabbed heavy chair, smashing into Victor. He passed out, but Julian didn't stop. Seeing bloodied figure, Simon rushed to intervene, barely stopping the frenzy under cold face. To tame a beast into pet, pull teeth, clip claws young, stripping attack ability. But Theodore didn't. He left whip marks as sign, then released, letting beast mature, grow wings, sharp fangs, claws, and ambition. Blood pooled on floor, stinking red. Until phone rang, Julian released, tossing broken chair, bloodied hand answering. Mr. Foster's low voice. "Creek, Master's birthday soon. He says, wants home for it." Theodore's birthday didn't match official. He insisted another day, reason unknown, only he knew previous life's birth date. He knew hospital treatment meaningless. Remaining time he wanted at own home. Cake brought by Mr. Foster and Julian, placed before him. Flickering candles reflected twinkling in 3 eyes. Julian always felt Theodore lonely, seemingly surrounded by power, status, but actually an invisible wall. Others couldn't enter, he couldn't exit. Glamorous stage couldn't dispel his solitary eyes. This birthday party just 3. In brief moment, Theodore allowed warmth from Mr. Foster and Julian. He closed eyes, symbolically wishing, then signaled Julian to blow candles instead. As candles extinguished, Theodore's low voice, "Know what I wished?" As every year, Julian seriously asked, "What? Live to 100. Julian's eyelids trembled, lips quivered, expression complex between sorrow and helplessness. He laughed like crying, "Wishes spoken aloud don't come true." "I know," Theodore smiled calmly. Over years, his wish identical each time. Now he understood he'd been too stubborn. Previous life's early death obsessed him with survival, living guarded, daring not give affection. In end, neither he nor Julian lived well. Perhaps he should let go sooner. Cold hand gently stroked Julian's face. Hot tear from his eye dropped on hand back. Trembling finger quickly wiped it. Theodore now quietly admired that face closely. This was the child he raised, also the one he loved. So beautiful. Those clear, lively eyes, result of over a decade's heartfelt nurturing. Before finishing heartfelt words, intense pain struck again. Theodore's body twitched, face instantly pale. Stroking hands slipped from Julian's cheek, falling powerless on blanket. Julian panicked, rushing, patting chest for easier breath. After a while, Theodore eased, signaling to study, open bottom drawer. He returned with documents, turns out contract for undeveloped West Bay land. Theodore's ace. Julian looked confused. Theodore smiled faintly. "Your grandfather left it. Didn't you say Harlan family yours? Now, it's yours." Julian held papers, angry, wanting to throw far. But knees weakened, kneeling by bed. Hoarse voice, "I don't want it." Tears fell, silent yet fierce, as if endless. Immense fear crushed him inside, world collapsing like tide drowning both, and receding, leaving Julian alone in world. Mr. Foster quietly hid in room corner, eyes red. Days ago, when Julian absent, Theodore instructed clearly, "Creek young, too extreme. Support him, guide him forward. If I don't make it, Harlan branches won't stay quiet. Don't let what's Creek's be taken." Mr. Foster, help him. June's sweltering summer, heavy downpour, torrential washing all. In garden, servants anxiously searched, as last night Harlan Master wanted to see peonies. But garden peonies past bloom, petals scattered, mixed in mud. Maid stood long, dazed, thinking, flowers have fallen. Note, from now, switching to he, you pronouns. After violent blood cough with large blood spit, Theodore immediately comatose 3 days. Julian and doctors tried guessing sudden severe hemoptysis cause. Morning, he wanted egg soup, but ate little. I blew twice, still hot. Maybe that? Julian spoke fast, fearing pause would stop him. Doctor aside silent, letting him evade reality with guesses. After a while, like finishing monologue, Julian quieted. In minutes-long silence, trembling voice asked softly, "He, how much longer?" Doctor, not over a month. Theodore knew time short. These days, while lucid, he instructed Julian much. Julian listened silently, wordless. Eyes always red-rimmed, swollen bags unyielding, dark circles deepening, cheeks hollow, face terrifyingly haggard. Seeing it, Theodore ached with regret. If foreseen this, he'd treated him better. So now, neither suffered so. He needed Julian's support to raise hand, touching eyes softly. "Don't fear." Julian's lips tight line, only quivering pupils revealing emotion. Theodore continued, "Kid, hope you forgive me. From young to adult, no one loved me, no one taught love, so I don't know loving someone feels like." He spoke long-held words, voice slow, very soft, no longer former strong, reliable Harlan man. That day, what I said, against conscience, I just dared not admit. "Creek, I think, I love you." Julian bowed slightly, lips gently touching Theodore's cold ones. Affection yearned years, finally spoken by Theodore now. He rubbed lips lightly, hoarse, "I love you too." On starry night, Julian carried him to observatory to stargaze. All sensed impending. Entire estate unusually silent, heavy with grief. Theodore blanket wrapped, Julian held tight. He said nothing, mind blank, seemingly lost thought ability. Ear final reminder, main task gradually vanished. Task failed. Theodore's body exhausted, nearly breathless. Recent days on painkillers, nerves numbed, no clear pain, only fatigue blanketing. Now, only struggling to hold, say few words with Julian. He asked, "If next life you still want meet me?" Julian didn't answer direct. Adjusted blanket, softly asked, "Then how long I live for next life?" Theodore smiled, "Very long." Julian must live long for him, he thought. Theodore's eyes heavy. Though Julian gently shook, trying more words, body softened. He gazed starry sky, suddenly said, "I recall many years ago your caretaker said, your room always had singing. Alone, I felt scared, so sang to comfort myself." "What song?" Julian thought, replied, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Theodore's lips curved, eyes softened. "Sing once more for me." Julian sang, voice hoarse yet gentle, softly humming melody. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." Theodore closed eyes in song. He didn't want to feel Julian's tears on face. He'd cried enough. If choice, he'd die in that gentle song. Gazing stars, he felt body light, lifted by hazy light, each tiny star nearing, so close. Drowsiness amid flickering stars, seeming sinking eternal dream. Julian finished, bowed, kissing Theodore's forehead, arms tight around limp body. "Good?" he whispered. No answer. "Actually, I lied to you," Julian murmured, like to himself. "Then I didn't sing Little Star, just can't remember." He tightened hold, other hand quietly took dagger hidden in Theodore's office. Continued softly as fearing break quiet. "Uncles say, if really next life can I meet you? Next life really long, very, very long, but I don't want to stay alone. You know, I fear loneliness." He placed dagger in Theodore's hand, both hands on hilt, his over others. "Uncle, wait a bit. I'll join you soon." Cold blade pierced warm skin, shattering already broken heart. Warning, protagonist death, rebirth condition unmet. Warning, protagonist death, original world collapsing, original world rewinding. Host prepare mentally. Feeling cold hilt, Theodore snapped awake. Opening eyes, saw a blade about pierce Julian's heart. In that instant, mustering last strength, he twisted direction, blade veering off heart, stabbing chest. Notification, task, kill Julian Creek, completed. Before coma, Theodore's mind flashed confused thought. Turns out kill and murder, completely different. Extra. Julian wanted Europe trip, at least month away. He wanted Theodore along, pestering nearly half month without swaying, finally boarding plane alone sulkily. Julian knew why Theodore refused. Recent years, Theodore increasingly indulgent, no discipline. Formerly health-focused, now all ideals vanished. Current Theodore liked street snacks idly, home gaming, mahjong. Weekly exercise only from Julian's coaxing. To curb street eating, home chefs rotated. Result, Theodore bluntly, "Not right, not that taste." Julian sighed helplessly, thinking, street food oily, how compared to nutritionist meals? Anyway, for Theodore's health, Julian waged prolonged battle, wits, courage, patience. Before leaving, nagged Alex several times, must watch no sneaky takeout. Alex grimaced. "If Harlan wants eat, who dare stop?" Julian pondered, invited Mr. Foster back. Recent years, Mr. Foster more profound, unlike juniors rigidly advising. He silently stood aside, aged eyes layered complex emotions. Cared, Theodore half-life, so ultimately, who made Theodore yield was him. Before departing, Julian bent, kissing Theodore's lip corner lightly. "Sleep, send video so I see you." Theodore gaming, somewhat indifferent. Julian added, "Play bit more than rest eyes." Nagged away by Theodore, he left. Though impatient face, evening Theodore called. Julian talked long, confirmed no junk, waited Theodore asleep before hanging. Time difference each different. Theodore waking, there's still midnight, and that's time he awaited. Dawn, he arranged run with Lawrence Yates. Lawrence 2-3 years older, one few Theodore conversed easily. Initially Lawrence declined. Theodore said, if can't run, say so, why rush? 10 minutes later, Lawrence sportswear from Maybach at Harlan Gate calling, "Come out." Theodore preparing leave, entire Harlan buzzed. Mr. Foster chose thicker clothes, weather seemed cool, servants prepped return tea. Alex grabbed car keys. Theodore asked, "What you doing?" Alex, "Follow behind, if tired we return immediately." Theodore waved lightly, "I'll stay home." Him alone out truly rare, even Lawrence teased, "You out alone?" Rare indeed. Theodore glanced self-mockingly. Now grandma no love, uncle no care, abandoned, no one bothers me. Stop it, Lawrence chin jutted. Who doesn't know now you cough, whole Harlan trembles. Theodore smiled faintly, quickened pace. Quickened, actually jog, even so his exercise limit. Lawrence unwilling followed. Two-looped park, Lawrence panting, still said, Tell you ahead, later don't make me eat that small shop. Last time you diarrhea, your little creek prez sought me settle. Don't want involved again. Petty scheme exposed, Theodore unflushed, unhurried. Originally planning mention, too slowed to walk. He breathed few times, then spoke. Eastport side, any plans? After affirmative nod, Theodore continued, If nothing major, hand that to my kid handle. Lawrence laughed, lip pulled. You really overbearing. Want yield I yield? At least this much. Hand gestured. Say yield I really yield? I can't show, but need someone front for me. Lawrence grasped. Theodore used illness excuse, relinquish power, but Harlan relatives unrest. If Julian grasped power, behind needs support. You really spoil him. Back then he lawless, wasn't because you covered, no one interfere. Two found stone bench sit, Lawrence changed topic. Drake family chaotic lately. Heard Samuel Miles can't hold, corporation infighting, youngest son overreaching, now climbing top. Oldest Drake sought me days ago. Theodore silent. Lawrence talking, he quietly touched knee, few times, face slightly stunned. Discomfort flashed quick, he regained calm. Don't wade that muddy water. True. I'm old, no manage, just peacefully retire. Lawrence stretched, stood. Let's go. Which dingy stall eat this time? Theodore unmoving. Sit more. Sit what? He pointed sky, sun baking butt, lunchtime. Then pretended pull Theodore up, but touch caused big issue. Theodore yelped softly, audible, face pained. Seeing, Lawrence dared not touch, anxiously inquired, Where hurts? Theodore hesitated, hand on knee, probably knee bit sore. Lawrence paled. He knew friend years ago brushed death, now limbs precious, no casual bump. He frantically checked Theodore, calling while muttering worriedly. Theodore, oh Theodore, you really my bane. With me always trouble. Next time don't call me. Theodore uninterested, propped standing, but Lawrence anxiously held, coaxing endlessly. About thin skin who rivals Harlan people. Here chaotic calling car coaxing, Theodore's old phone rang, Julian video call. Knee hurting plus guilty, he muttered, midnight calling what? Then hung up. Hang result, Julian took earliest flight, straight back overnight. Theodore's knee not serious, but post-severe illness, body not former. At age, minor ailments inevitable. This time snuck run too long, bit fast, knee worn, inflamed, swollen. Julian pushed door, jogging, panting, chin stubbly unshaven. First eye contact, he slightly lowered lids, avoiding. But brief second, then Harlan raised head, gaze direct, even wrong, can't lose momentum. Back early what? Matters there done? He asked calmly. Julian breathed, crouched checking Theodore's knee. Lifted thin blanket, saw swollen knee, plastered medicated. Brows tight. Basically resolved. Julian endured, trying calm facing situation. He'd asked doctor about condition. Doctor instructed much, emphasized. Night may hurt more, but don't rub knee direct. Can massage calf, reduce pressure. Julian carefully noted each word. Lawrence long fled, inside finding quiet spot. All knew Theodore's stubborn might. Whole Harlan, including Julian, understood. Even Mr. Foster only dared watch outside, sighing. Julian brought soup bowl, sat beside. Just home, only changed clothes, rushed over. Theodore glanced, somewhat tired face, softly asked, Midnight calling what? Julian didn't hide, honestly. I thought, you hard sleep, here noon, just want see you. Unexpected you hung, made me more uneasy. Theodore no reply. After a while he touched stubble on chin. Shave then sleep. But Julian couldn't sleep. Till dusk, still applying ointment to Theodore's knee, still lightly swollen. Pain from knee to nerve, sometimes sharp, sometimes dull, slight move intensified. As doctor said, night worse. Theodore began unwilling talk, under warm light, face paled. Due weak constitution, doctor advised, endure if possible best, no painkillers. He could only grit bear. And body uncomfortable, emotions volatile, just coughed fit, longed to subside. Thus, even closest family friends, always pushed away. Not coldness, but unable bear own weakness. Bedroom only bedside yellow light, outside living room lights on. Mr. Foster and Alex unsleeping. Mr. Foster entered few times check. On bed, he weary, near dawn, no sleep sign. Julian still massaging back, long one position back aches, recent new symptom. He often sat half day in study finishing, became habit. Initially hid illness no say. Later Julian discovered because lying half day motionless, learned back uncomfortable. Since Julian learned massage often rubbed back when free. Now, Mr. Foster sat bed end, also massaging calf. Seeing Theodore pale, room people anxious, not just leg worry but fear, heart stressed. Mr. Foster intended stay care more, but 10 minutes chased rest. Only 2 left. Julian kept adjusting knee pillow height, trying comfort. Hands gently massaged waist. Still sore? Better any? Theodore nodded slightly. Julian bent, massaging foot. Knee less swollen than start, walking not hard. He gently held pale ankle in palm, appropriate force soothing tense muscles from pain. Theodore glanced. Julian focused, oblivious. Jet lag, no full sleep, now eye rims red, but stubbornly no rest. Past midnight, Theodore dozed. Bedside light someone quietly off. Knee pain like morning light dispelled, gradually receding. In sleep, Theodore vaguely felt steady calf massage. He slowly woke, beside empty but legs warm, comfortable. Looked down, Julian asleep by his feet. No blanket, the long legs bent, over bed end, one arm loosely holding his ankle. Theodore slightly moved, that arm reflexively rubbed calf lightly. Julian didn't even open eyes. Theodore's eyes flashed rare softness. He lightly tugged foot. Julian startled awake, bolted up, face tense. What's wrong, we're uncomfortable? Theodore placed Julian's nape on shoulder. Sincere, reliable, said, Sleep. Julian said nothing. Obediently curled in Theodore's chest, like protected little wolf. Soon, sank deep sleep again. Theodore's injury, though hidden well, still showed flaws. That time, living room often visitors bringing lavish gifts. But meeting upstairs person, not easy. Mr. Foster always politely declined. Lately, Mr. Harlan health poor, forgive no receive guests. If urgent, Mr. Creek upstairs caring, I can call him down. Hearing, all understood. Years ago, Harlan internal, chaotic, noisy, rumored Julian power grab, overthrow Theodore, but now seemed noise for outsiders. Julian's backing, always only Theodore Harlan. Most visiting Harlan Manor left gifts and departed. Only Lawrence with 2 Yunnan Bayao plasters directly upstairs. He chose when Julian absent, placed plasters on table, then examined Theodore's leg, swelling indeed serious. How you end up like this? Theodore raised eyes glance, when running with you. Lawrence knew his nature. Before explained, Theodore continued. Few days go Eastport. Lawrence hand interrupted. Okay, I know. You deliberate right? Playing pity card? If I know agree, you go everywhere say I caused your injury. Theodore brow raised. Or else. Lawrence truly felt this person older, more shameless. Really can't communicate. He stood to leave, wanted tease, but seeing legs still swollen, face bit tired, hesitated, finally said, Take care, health. Usually pay attention. No, don't not listen. Others say you frown. No one dare speak, like still 20. Don't fight age. Theodore, no reply, lowered head, focused, gaming. A few days later, people amazed because rarely obedient. He followed nutritionist menu, exercised suitably daily with Julian, even gaming moderated. Doctor rechecked knee fully diswollen. Though walking slight pain, for Theodore no issue. But worrisome still, especially Julian, nightly waking change leg position, avoid bump or press. This check, doctor not just leg but full exam, carefully asked, lately chest tight, hard breathe? Theodore looked at tense waiting Julian, decisively shook head. Gesture unlike fake, results very positive. Doctor turned to Julian. Recovery excellent compared few years ago, this miracle. Theodore knew miracle source but told no one. Most relieved, Julian. After half-month home care, finally Julian leave for meeting. Home again, only Theodore. Alex brought daughter company. Little Daisy, now taller, cute, lively. Arrived holding milk tea, but Alex snatched at door. Still, Theodore's sharp eyes caught. Milk tea, small joy, previous life, no chance try. This life, health reason, never touched. Julian never brought. First sight felt novel. Theodore beckoned girl over, whispered, Tasty. Little girl sucked straw tight, round eyes innocent, clearly puzzled. Dad took tea, but honestly nodded to Theodore. Very tasty. Theodore intrigued, wanted try once, but home now strict control. Even Mr. Foster canceled trip stay villa, ordering out inconvenient, Lawrence not visiting lately. Theodore pondered, bent whispering to little girl. Next day she had Harlan door, big backpack. Alex surprised, backpack for what? Little girl chirped, come for Harlan tutor homework. Alex wry smile, daughter truly pampered. Back then, even Julian only taught few times in study by Theodore. Now his kid special. Before speak, she scampered upstairs, straight to study. Alex helplessly followed. But still uneasy, told Julian. Feared young daughter, reckless annoy Theodore. Just finished, Julian silent seconds asked, You said he let little Daisy go alone? Yes. She bring anything? Alex thought, nothing, just backpack. Julian silent seconds, then quickly back villa, speed clearly faster usual. Alex and Mr. Foster trailed. Julian at study door, knocked few, no wait answer pushed in. Inside, two turned heads together. Girl not doing homework, hugging pillow happily watching cartoons. Table had milk teacup, Theodore on sofa beside holding half-drunk milk tea. Seeing Julian at door, he raised cup, said, not bad, just bit sweet. Julian stood place, eyes helplessness nearly overflowing. Uncle, you promised me. Theodore blinked, turned away, clearly justified. Doesn't count as eating. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please hit subscribe to similar content. Thank you so much.